I'm at 146 Hartshorn Drive in Vandalia, Ohio. Doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that would be of concern to the buyer. Our access is an outside clean out here, just to the right of the front door, as you see. It is cast iron, and the one limitation we have here is that this does not allow for us to inspect the lines inside. As we go down through the clean out, you'll see that the line kind of turns. You'll see how that, and what it does is it's shaped, they call it a sweep, and it basically forces the line, forces my camera to only be able to go out towards the street instead of being able to go back into the house. A lot of times they'll put in two-way cleanouts now, but this is obviously, the house was built in '66, I believe, and so this is pretty normal with cast iron lines. That they have this sweep on it that basically just shoves the camera out towards the street, and so it doesn't allow us to inspect the cast iron under the house. And so, trying to get this to get started here. There we go. So I may have to run some water to get, when you go into these things, a lot of times you just get smudges all over the lens of the camera, so we'll probably have to run some water to rinse that off. But I want to also talk about the cast iron in the house. It's not a bad material, but it is really rough on the inside. It does rust. It's just the nature of cast iron. And so it does have a tendency to be a little more, it's a little more common to have soft clogs in cast iron. I just like to mention that because making sure that people don't put like wet wipes or paper towels or feminine products down the line. It's not good for any line. None of those things are, but the cast iron is always worse just because of how rough the interior is. It makes it much more likely that things can get caught and back up. With toilet paper, it breaks down, like it just disintegrates into the water. And with, got a little bit of water running now. But with the wet wipes, they do not break down, and so we have an issue where things will back up behind it, and so that's where the issue comes in. They say they're flushable, but they really aren't. Even the ones that say flushable don't break down well enough to be, they shouldn't be used. I don't think they should be allowed to be called flushable, honestly, but maybe, I guess they just think because it goes down through the toilet that it's okay. But it can really kind of mess up it can cause clogs very easily. So at any rate, once we got out past the clean out, it turns to clay, which is very normal for this age of house. You can see, looks like there's a little bit, kind of just the hintings of some roots, and I'd say the most common thing we find in these old clay lines like this is root intrusion, and you can see that right there. It's very, very common because a lot of these houses, they tended to plant a tree right in the center of the front yard, and the sewer line runs right next to it. And so most cases it gets in, you can see it's right at a connection, and so you can see that they get in at the connections, and then the roots, the little tiny roots start getting in and growing. It's usually not an issue, and it's something that can be taken care of with regular maintenance. There are permanent solutions, such as having the line, having it lined, having the pipe lined so that there's no openings, there's no connections. Basically, they're sealed. Because really what happens is over the years, from 66, 60 60 years of these pipes being in the ground, they have like a packing at these joints. And with clay, there's one about every 3 feet or so. And that packing tends to kind of shrink over the years, and so it starts letting in the roots. And of course, there's nothing a tree's gonna like more than water and fertilizer all in one place. So a little bit more. None of these are really really serious or anything. They're at the point now where you might be able to start with like a chemical treatment, something like Rudex. It's something that the homeowner can do, where you put a foaming agent down there, it foams up, it catches on the roots as you flush, and then it helps kind of keep the roots from growing real heavily. But usually I recommend that if you're going to do that, you do that for about 5 years, and then after about 5 years you have the line rescoped, and just so you can kind of check how much the roots are growing, how well the chemical is working, keep the roots back, and if you need to adjust the maintenance schedule in one direction or another. Overall, the line looks really good structurally. Don't have any there's a little bit of water here, a little belly, but I believe this is off the property, so even if this, when I'm pushing it, it does push the water up in front of the camera, so. But I believe this is all off the property, and I'll take a look at the locate when I'm done. I'll locate it when I come back, just to be sure that that is off the property. But you can see we made it all the way to the main. That is the shared line that runs down the street that all the houses connect to. And so as we pull back, we'll take a look. I'm actually gonna I'll pull back a little bit to the beginning of that right here, where it's just holding a little bit of water. And this is not a big issue. It's not obstructing flow or anything like that. It's just a little spot where the line sunk. It's probably been there for the life of the line. A lot of times this happens right after they install these lines. They backfill, when they're putting 8 or 10 feet of dirt on it. Sometimes they'll settle a little bit in some areas, and it looks to me like this is under the road. So I'm going to pause the video and get a locate exactly where this is, and that way we'll know that if for some reason, if this ever becomes more serious, it'd be, a good thing to know for the homeowner that it wouldn't be their responsibility to repair it. Yep, we are actually across the street in the grass, just almost underneath the curb on the other side of the street. So this is definitely off the property, and it's about another 30 to 35 feet before we get back to the spot where it would become the responsibility of the homeowner. So we got plenty of so all this is going to be under the road. It's just like I said, it's just holding a little bit of water. It's not much. It's not even it's not even an inch of water. And so, especially combined with how I mentioned earlier, if you're just using toilet paper and regular solids, this won't cause an issue at all. But yeah, it's about maybe 10 feet of holding a little bit of water, so it's not really even a defect. And again, it's off the property. So we get back to about 55 to 60 feet, and then we'll be back onto the property. It's right around in here where it's at about the curb. And this all looks good. I mentioned earlier about there being pipelining is like a permanent solution to keep out roots, but it's about as expensive as replacing the line. That's another way to keep the roots out. But a lot of newer, bigger companies always recommend that you do one of those two because they're very expensive. But having it cleaned using a chemical or having it cleaned periodically, like I said, the chemical a homeowner can do that. Just read the directions on the bottle. I think it's roughly $50 for a treatment, and it may be enough for 2 treatments. Kind of depends, but you do that once a year, and it should take care of these roots. You can see these are attaching onto my camera a little bit, but so these are just starting to get down in the line. They're right around the flow line. I think I actually tore some of those loose, so 40 feet. This is kind of at a spot where if you tried to clean it right now, I'm not really sure that they would even be able to feel enough resistance to know what they were cleaning or how well they were getting it cleaned, because of how light they are. And so I would recommend an initial treatment for the so I'd just try to do some root X initially when you move in or right before you move in, and then maybe in a year, and like I said, and then after about 5 years, have the line rescoped after using that root X or another chemical root killer for about 5 years. Once yearly for that 5 years, and then have it scoped again and see how the roots are growing, see if they're even an issue. I mean, as long as this tree's in the front yard, they will continue to grow. And so there's another option there. You could take the tree out, and then the roots will be gone in a few years. But really, I mean, 2 spots I've seen are about 20 feet here and then about 40 feet, and they don't seem really bad. It's just they're starting to grow down into the flow line here. See if I can rip it loose and bring it back with me. So I've got those little fingers on my camera that sometimes can wrap up. And so maybe I can get it to, yeah, it's not going to pull off, but I tried to get my camera to rotate and grab a hold of those roots, but it won't do it. So. But there's one spot at 20 feet and another one at 40 feet, and they are minor. And the chemical should help burn those back. But structurally, the line looks great, and that minor, very, very minor amount of roots is not an issue at all. So here we are back out of the clean out. So the fixtures will be tested to make sure that they're flowing freely. But again, we were unable to inspect the line under the ground in the house. But the exterior line looked great, great structurally. Just like I said, a couple spots of minor root intrusion, one at 20 feet, one about 40 feet. And those can be treated with a chemical. I would do that immediately, either upon taking occupancy or just before, and then again once a year, and then have it looked at again in a few years, just to see if the maintenance schedule is doing what it's having its desired effect. But yeah, the line itself structurally looks great, and so that's good news. And so that's going to end the inspection at 146 Hartshorn Drive in Vandalia, Ohio.